one, a two, a three.
Shout out Beefy for the intro, and shout out that little crew for leaving the league and never coming back, because since then, we've been nothing but great. Make NDLB great again. That feels like it's going to be the topic for today, since there wasn't much signing, not much to talk about, and I feel like I should be delivering the NDLB people at least one podcast a day. Plus, I like doing the intros. Spent more time trying to figure out what intro to do than anything else. I ran through LL Cool J Phenomenon, Hail to the Chief. I had the whole Bill Murray singing, the horrible Daffy Duck Take Me Out to the Ball Game. And I settled on Atomic Dog because nothing feels better than getting a little bit excited when you're talking about this anticlimactic offseason that is NDL 2044. As always, it's Nick Wadden by himself, just shooting the shit in front of my computer, looking at the screen while everybody types to one another and talks about the week that has been. Looking over the off-season center, it seems like there was only 3 significant moves to talk about, and significant is putting it lightly. Or, wait, no, the opposite of lightly. Whatever. I'm uneducated. What do you expect? So, looking at the first signing, we got Tony Delerme, or something like that. We'll have to get Dave's opinion on what it sounds like. It looks like an Italian name. Anyways, solid outfield there. Had a really good season last year with Albany, but they couldn't come to terms, and it looks like he scooted over to Cincinnati for $9.5 million with a player option that he more than likely will turn down and then get more money in the open market. Which reminds me, we may or may not be speaking about Optiongate later. Yes, Optiongate. I haven't decided on another name, but Optiongate will do for the time being. Looking on, Miami jumped into the market and finally signed 2 players they've been long since going after, essentially an extension with one, re-signing Javier Slippery Trevino to a 2-year, $2.4 million per year, so $5 million pretty much, it's like 4.9. But he will be going into the bullpen this year and no longer pitching as a starter, because last year was just atrocious. But as a reliever, he had under 3 ERA, so Miami feels like they could probably get something out of him for that. And also they signed Amori Taylor. Jesus, I'm just butchering these names today. Amori comes over from Winterfell, so he's used to the NL, but in his time in Winterfell, he has been nothing but 100 on or above 100 on the OPS plus, which is 100 is average. So I'll take that any day of the week and twice on Sunday. At $3.1 million with a player option for 2.1. Jeez, look at those player options statistically. 3.1, 25%. Yeah, oh, he's getting less. Okay, cool. It makes it in there. Also, to clarify, fuck it, I'll talk about it now. The whole option thing, I believe it was started because of me. Because I used to sign players to team options with no intent of ever claiming them. And a lot of people did, because you could just fool the computer into thinking they were getting $100 million over 10, and you were really giving them 5 or 7 years at $50 mil. You're saving yourself so much money. Now, obviously, that's exaggerated, but they were that ridiculous. And if you look at some player options nowadays, they're pretty ridiculous. Now, you could argue that these high numbers you would expect them to take, but we also know that in this world, that the offseason, when we all have $50 million to spend over 30 teams, let me quickly do the math on Excel, 50 times 30, $1.5 billion. So when UFA see this, even if they suck, there's still like, 100 of them in there, so they're all going to want a piece of that pie, and that's how the thought process goes in the video game. So now you're going to have no relievers who think they're worth $15 million, but they're really only going to get about 7 on the market. They got a $10 million player option. They're looking at it like, nope, not going to take that. I'm going to move on, as they always are going to do. Now, ideally, you should be paying these guys in the first few weeks of the off season, but we all know we wait till February when they all get so desperate to work because in their digital world, times are tough. Remember, this is the post-Trump era, and they have moved on to the robotic Bernie era, which socialism didn't really work that well. So now we have a giant government, which explains why all the major cities in the OOTP don't really have teams because they're all living in small towns now trying to survive the big robot revolution disaster that's actually happening, which would probably explain where Kevin Thomas and Zhen Zhu or whatever the fuck that guy's name was came from. But now you know that, I can't say too much more because I'm a part of the revolution. I'm just saying these podcasts to prepare you for that. It doesn't actually have to do with baseball. That's why I was being so monotone the first few times. 'Cause I just had to lure you in. So if you guys could sign the 2044 document about banning robots because no one really likes robots and they're taking all our jobs, that'd be great. Going back to the topic at hand, I mean, when the season comes, I'll gladly talk about things that matter, like the records, what to look for. But right now, there's just so much talent in the free agent market. Like, if I go by my scout, ridiculous. If I don't go by my scout, ridiculous. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 blue guys, most of which are pitchers. And we all know this league is built off the back of pitchers. And yet they're all in the market, just sitting there. Brent Martin, the right fielder. You got Buck Patterson, a catcher. Another catcher retired because I definitely sent him an offer, and it's gone. And he didn't sign anywhere. But I mean, like, there is so much talent still out there that you could go from nothing to something just by the free agency pool and having a little bit of balls and not worrying about a little bit of compensation. I used to worry about compensation. I thought I had like 4 first-round picks. They're all duds because my scout didn't scout them right, because I didn't have enough time. They didn't have a history. You don't look at their stats. You see 2 colleges. You see 3 years in high school. Whoop-de-doo. They all kill it there. And they're in your mind for the rest of your life. You know what you need to do? You need to spend that extra couple bucks on a compensation pick. Then you get a player. You do better that year. You get more money in the offseason, and you don't have to worry about doing Moneyball because Moneyball doesn't work in this league because the people with the money just buy all the talented players. You can build your team till you're blue in the face, but it doesn't mean nothing when I have more money than you, have the same utilities as you, can look at the same numbers as you, analyze the same numbers as you, and use the same little money as you. But anyways, my rant's a little off, but it's the facts. You need to give a little to get a little in this day and age, it seems like. But looking at all the names that are here, it's ridiculous. The batters are slowly going down, though. The batters are definitely where you need to be looking. Juan Carlos Gamboa is still on the market, but his number's going up. Buck Patterson, like I brought up, like, let's look at these offer contract. 20 mil he wants. That's not the end of the world. These guys provide talent, okay? So Buck Patterson wants 20 mil at 5 WAR. That's not so bad. 4 mil a WAR. What did you expect to get on the open market? Doesn't demand a lot of attention. Often goes unnoticed. He's only 30 years old. How long do you think he's going to last until he falls off the edge of the cliff? 5 years? Give him a 4-year contract. Who gives a crap about that compensation pick that might become something in 4 years when you've had a player who's been something for 4 years? Oh, jeez, I shortcutted him. Now his name is gigantic. Shortcut this. Move from shortcuts. Okay, that works. Then you go with the outfield. Even though it's dime a dozen, my outfield sucks, so I would gladly take them if I could find a spot to put them in. But you got Brent Martin, 33 years old, Pierre Page. You got the 27-year-old Gamboa, the Goomba Gamboa. Then you have like guys like Philip Young, 33 years old. Eat a compensation, give them 2 years. We all know that around 35 they start to fall off the edge of a cliff. Take advantage of that. Juan Torres, 30 years old. Kirk Cole, one of the better defensive-minded catchers in the league. 2.4 WAR while sucking on offense. That just tells you he's all defense in a defensive-minded position. Wants $4 million. Like, why aren't 31 years old? Why aren't people jumping on this? Willie McCoy, third baseman, wants under 10 million, no compensation. 29 years old, hit 276, 320, 458. This is the reason why the same teams, for the most part, go to the playoffs, and one team that's new gets lucky because they've sucked for 15 straight years and finally hit something. But like, let's look over last year. New England, Orange County, Shelltown, Washington, Boston. Cool. So there's 5 of the 6 teams that always make it. Then you got the Los Angeles Bomb Squad. That was that 6 team that got in. But they look like they're solid. They look like they're taking risks. Then you go to the other side, Richmond. Richmond used to be strong, but then hit financial problems right away. I remember talking about them. Dillonvale, once again in the playoffs. Albany in the playoffs. Toronto, Cookville in the playoffs. Alabama, the champs in the playoffs again. Like, these aren't names that you're not used to seeing there. You got Las Vegas, Winterfell fighting for their spots. Hillsboro's starting to make that push, and with this offseason they've had, I don't see why they wouldn't make that push. You got people who claim that war or in the offseason isn't a big deal and all that, and it's not in the sense that you can bring up developed players, but if you're like Dylan Vale, who's minus 38, and I think that's minus 380 runs, you really think you're going to replace all that with kids? You might not win 60 games next year. That's a lot of talent loss. That is a lot of production loss. In fact, looking over his team, it looks like my team before it took the massive nosedive off the edge of a cliff. But good for him in the sense that a lot of his higher ranked guys, Anaba Garang, oh that man, this is pretty cool. Guy from Togo. That's pretty darn cool. I've never seen that before. But the only upside for him is he has a lot of youth talent still. Mario Gomez, 24. Bobby Audley, who's called up, 22. Matt Cochran, 23. But you just, in this league, you just need so much overwhelming talent, almost like an all-star team to compete. Sorry. In fact, look at Washington's team. This guy feels like he is on the edge or the cusp of rebuilding. Meanwhile, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blue guys, about 5 green guys. This guy's team's stacked. I mean, look at their age, 32, 28, 26, 24, 24, 30, 29, 31. Like, I mean, if you do a quick average, what's that, 27? Oh, man. He has like 5 more years of competing. What a horrible world he lives in. And that's the issue, is that even though you have some talented players, you need a lot of talented players. And that's that topic. Yeah, like I said, there ain't really much to talk about this week because only 3 people signed over 2 weeks. But February is coming, so expect the financial expectations to drop a little bit. So I'm hoping that over the next few podcasts, so to speak, we'll get to talk about things that are actually important, like looking at the future of the league and who I feel might make the playoffs, who I feel is going to struggle. When the draft pool comes out, I can give some opinions on that. I pick high enough up that I don't really care if I expose who I really want because, well, I'm about 4 or 5 picks in, and with finances, I got to be stingy. There's going to be a lot of things. This is just more so at the beginning, just me getting my feet wet, understanding the concept of talking on a mic by myself with no noise in my ear telling me to keep going, what to talk about. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun. I'm just here to entertain you guys and try to get as many minutes out of my day so that when you guys are listening to this at work, at home, on the drive, wherever, sorry for swearing once again, but wherever you be, that you don't have to stress out really, and that it kills, like, for example, I've talked for 12 minutes. Who thought I could talk for 12 minutes? I did, but now I have, and now that's 12 minutes of your day that is now gone. Oh, that reminds me. We are going to talk about Optiongate. That's a good one. What a shitstorm I created by accidentally bringing that one up just because I was looking at some contracts, getting pretty pissed off at myself. Let's see what he wants now, offer contract. Yeah, see, like, I don't understand where these people talk about the double player option. I've never had a player ask me for 2 player options. And when I look at Jose Morales' list, he wants 9.5 over 5, which is roughly the same amount that What's-His-Face gave him, but he just gave him 5, 10, and 2 player options for like 12 that he would never, ever, 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 ever take. So, I mean, it's just such a slippery slope. Ideally, no one wants to sit and monitor every team, but we're also human beings, and if we see a disadvantage or an advantage we can take, we're going to take it. It's the same reason that people wait till February and hope that none of the monsters sign before then, because then they can take advantage, I believe, of non-compensation. They can also take advantage of the fact that the guy is cheaper. It just is what it is, and that's how the league is run, and that's how it will always be run. Now, that's like the same thing in real life. We wait for some players that don't want to sign, and they eventually cave in. Problem is, since in our league, it's a lot different than the pros, and that when we sim is one day over in real life, that's 2 actual weeks, and back and forth negotiations and rumors and the media, etc., etc. But that's where I come in, where I'm hoping that in the future I can create a little buzz, can create players getting traded or signed or looked at who wouldn't be looked at. In fact, if you're going to look at someone, look at Dennis the Duck Garcia, who has the best name. And I'm almost certain he went to Oregon, which makes his name that much better. But I'm not 100% sure. No, he went to Southern Cal, which is even better. He was a duck in disguise. He was an espionage for the USC trophies, or for the Oregon Ducks at the UNC. Players like him, like, here, you know what? I'm going to give you guys who's listening this far and hasn't turned it off or muted it or give me a thumbs down because of the beginning, I'm going to give you 3 batters and 2 pitchers I have no interest in, but I want you to sign. All right. First things first, every single one of you jump on the Gamboa train, okay? Whether or not you believe his OSA, just know he's been scouted enough and he has 100 power. There's nobody in the league with more raw power. Think of Alfredo, whatever his last name was. I think it was Hernandez, Cincinnati's player who just mashed the ball. He's 27 years old. All his stats are already developed. He doesn't have to go through any minors. You can put him in the lineup right away. His defense isn't exactly great, but you're not signing a 6'5", 220-pound monster lefty for his defense. And if you are, then stick him in left field because at least out there you get some value out of him. But there should be no issue signing this guy. And at 27, turning 28, let's assume this is his 28th year. So 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. You can give this guy a 7-year deal and laugh at it with no compensation. That's my first monster name. My second name is, and it comes with a compensation, but Mark Jenkins. Yeah, Mark Jenkins, that one. The one that people like OCD hate on, but, you know, who the hell do they know? How many titles has he got? Especially recently. And without horrible contracts that are illegal. In fact, like half his team's contracts are illegal, but I digress. Mark Jenkins, look at those numbers. Plus 119 OPS plus, 261, 309. You're not going to get the best on base, but you're going to get ridiculous slugging out of this guy, even with a little bit of decline, because he is 37 years old. Defensively, last year, plus 9.6 zone rating at second base, even though he was called a non-defensive second baseman, which is a little ridiculous, because people also call Todd Klein a second baseman when he's a glorified first baseman who might get shuffle his body over to make a catch or two. So that's a second baseman infielder you can go for, so it's an outfielder infielder. And the final pick I'll give you guys is... I'll give you guys a non-compensation because people love the non-compensations, guys. So take a risk on Brent Martin. 78 out of 78. OSA has him as the same. If you look at his batting stats, he's never had a down year, always had pretty strong WAR. His defense in right field is elite. Right field is a really hard position to find, especially with an 80-plus defensive rating there. He has all of the tools, the arm, and you can get him on a 3-year deal with a player option. He's more than likely going to turn down. So you only get him for 2 years at 33 years of age. He's out by 35, and you're laughing because someone you developed in the minor leagues is now ready to take over. It's all about replacing and moving on, in my opinion. In that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to randomly click a name with my mouse because I got the list open and I'm closing my eyes even though you guys can't see it. And you just have to believe me. And I'm going to click a name and I'm going to look at their team and I'm going to give opinions on who I think they should go after or if they're good to go. So without further ado, let me see what I click. Oh, shit. The Montreal Mounties. Oh, boy. Let's talk about those guys. Yeah, and their Labatt beer. All right, looking at this team, I could see why they won 46 games last year. This is absolutely dreadful. And their minor league sucks too. Well, that is Montreal, and no one really likes Montreal. Montreal sucks, so that would explain a lot. Now, if you go by OSA, which is not my scout, it looks a little better. It looks like you have a lot of pitching and some infielding, and you've got the middle of your. Oh Christ, never mind. I thought that guy was a center fielder, but he's not. Looking over this squad, this team might win 70 games this year. You need to address a lot. Oddly enough, you don't really have to address your pitching too much. If you wanted to, I would go out and I would sign Brent Martin. I would sign Mark Jenkins. I would sign anyone I could possibly get my hands on, compensation or not, because you will not lose your first-round pick. And ideally, you're going to look at a second-rounder who's maybe above or maybe an average MLBer, and then you look at the third round where you'll be lucky if you find an average reliever, and then by then you're just throwing darts at the wall or shit at the wall more than likely and hoping something sticks. And that won't be the case more often than not. So when looking at a team like this, especially when you sign guys like Jorge Silva, like we've talked about this team, and you're signing guys like Jorge Silva, you have to go out and you have to take a risk. Looking at the OSA from the minor leagues, you have a couple of outfielders, a shortstop, and a closer that looks to be in the future, but you don't have a catcher. You have Jamie Zavala, who, you know what, I can't actually hate on him. He's everything you ask for in a defensive catcher. He's not exactly offensively gifted, and he has a vesting option, so you can actually hold on to that. Let me take that back. What you need to address hitting because this team might score 1 run all year. It is the most dreadful offense I've ever seen, and I've been on some pretty bad teams recently with my Miami Vice. And don't make me talk about them because I'll just tell you how great they are and how in 5 years from now I'm going to have 6 titles, and that does include the one I had before, and how my minor leagues are going to have 150 titles. But you guys don't want to hear that. You guys want to hear me talk about other teams and just rant. So I think I'm just going to cut it short after this. And once again, if you're interested, I guess if you have questions or concerns, PM me. Especially if you have questions, and I'll gladly answer them. I'm going to set up an email. I do have an email, ndlbpodcast@gmail.com, but I'm going to set up an easy way for people to ask questions, or if they want to get involved, I'll figure out ways of connecting to people recording and talking. Try to get a second body on here, but I can't promise that because this stuff is like learning a new language, and as much fun as I have speaking into my mic, I'm going to have to amplify it just to be able to get it across to you guys without it sounding ridiculous. But once again, this is Nick. I hope you enjoyed what I could put together with what little we had to put together, and have a great night.